Welcome to another edition of Turn 6 Garage, and today it's been 14 long years, but we've finally had a motor show in Melbourne, so I figured I'd go there and check it out. So this is a recap of the Sunday at the Melbourne Motor Show. The motor show this year has been dominated by Chinese brands. The new car displays here were dominated by the Chinese, with only a handful of established legacy car manufacturers present. And this was a time for the Chinese car makers in particular to show their worth to the Melbourne public. And they didn't disappoint. Concept cars, electric, petrol, they brought the lot. And it really showed that we're looking at a giant of the automotive industry that's starting to sink its claws into the Australian market. So in terms of Chinese brands, we had Jack, MG, Zeekr, Leapmotor, Deepal, and Xpeng. In terms of established names, Subaru and Peugeot were there by virtue of being imported by Inchcape. Porsche were there through Porsche Centre Melbourne. Zagamis bought McLarens and also some Brabuses along, as well as Isuzu Ute and Mahindra. Kia were there with their new Tasman. It was a very vibrant and special event and brought back memories of the old motor show. The old motor show that I knew very, 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 very well, having been there from 1999 to 2011. Each of those years, I went to a motor show either in Melbourne or Sydney, and it felt like that again, which was pretty special. And the public agreed with me. Saturday and Sunday were both sellout crowds, and it was a wall of people, as you see from the footage. There was no quiet small spot where you could hide away. Everywhere was full of people. While there were also some dream cars of many, including myself, also there, as part of a lot of the paint protection and aftermarket industries that also were in the motor show this year, which was really good. We got to see some pretty special oldies as well as the newbies. So, in terms of cars that were there that really stood out, Jack had a very, very interesting concept car, which looks like it was inspired by both the Spiker C8 and the Ital-designed BMW NASCAR C2. It's as though someone was playing Need for Speed and decided to make a concept car, which I approve of. I don't know if they'll ever put it into production, but I sure hope they do. Jack came there with some Utes, the T9 in both electric and petrol form, which definitely appealed to a lot of people coming to the show. One thing I didn't like about this car, and as you'll probably see with some of these other Chinese offerings, is that my size 14s do not fit comfortably in these cars. But anyway, kudos to Jack for bringing a car that's going to attract a lot of people. Ditto for Kia with the Tasman. They had 3 Tasmans there. Getting people to touch, look and feel is a great way of securing orders for the car's launch in the middle of the year. And also you could say the same about a lot of the other Chinese brands. Let's start with Xpeng. In particular, the X, a $62,000 premium EV SUV. This car looks like it's been very well executed in terms of fit and finish and build quality inside and out, and it is a very tactile and absolutely wonderful place to sit in. This car here is well finished, well equipped, and looks good for 62 grand. If Xpeng do a good job advertising and backing it up, they've got a winner. Also bringing more eyes to the car is Deepal, and this car that I'm looking at here is the S07. Now again, size 14s don't agree with it, but anyway, this car is also something that is going to attract a lot of people to it, and people are looking at these cars seriously now because they look good, they're well finished, and all the tactile surfaces feel great. In the showroom, you would fall for this car very, very quickly. In terms of mechanicals, well, only time can really tell how they'll be. And also in terms of backup, again, for some of these, there's been a few question marks on some manufacturers, but again, time will tell again. They're only new, so you're kind of buying into a bit of an unknown there. In terms of the other cars that were here that probably should have been here, well, having a dual cab Ute in this place was a good thing. MG bought their new dual cab Ute in, and again, lots of people wanted to sit in it. Ditto for the Cyberstar. Now, I did have a seat in the Cyberstar. It is a lovely, lovely place to be, and it looks wonderfully screwed together. Paint, body, all very good. Although I kind of asked myself how those doors and that display will be in 5 years' time. But anyway, great car to sit in. Not nice for my huge feet, of course, but anyway. And 120 grand, well, it's a lot of money, but it's less than the equivalent Porsche Boxster. It's still a car you'd actually think about given the way it looks and the way it feels, at least on the showroom floor. Isuzu were smart bringing D-Maxes and doing their nice ramp stunts with them because That's what people want to see, entertainment and in a car that they're actually going to buy, which the D-Max, they are going to buy. Popular car in Australia. But where's its sister, the Mazda BT50? Where's the Hilux? Where's the Ford Ranger? Where's the Triton? Where's the Navara? Nope, they're not there. So you got to go to the dealership to sit in them. What these makes have done is a disservice. People have now seen other cars and know what they feel like. And that means they're going to be subconsciously biased to actually look at the cars, actually know how they feel like in terms of sitting in them, in terms of how they feel to look at, how they feel to sit in them, and what they are to look at. Opportunity missed by a lot of the mainstream brands. Subaru was smart enough to bring cars along, and the only manual and proper car you could sit in was the WRX, which, of course, was in its typical Subaru blue and had a queue of people to get into. But typical Rex, nice to sit in, nice to be around, and, of course, always livens up a motor show. And coming to a rental fleet near you in 2030, the Peugeot 2008 Hybrid, the sort of clunker that I will be buying in 5 years' time to rent out to people, with all the other Euro trash that I own. Now, Peugeot's cars were a very much welcome addition. People need to experience these cars more because they're not selling very well, and Peugeot really are making some reasonable cars now that are actually quite interesting to be in and interesting to sit in and are nice to drive. Noticed it with the 508 that I drove, that highly underappreciated car. And Peugeot had the 3008 and the 408 and the 308 as well. All of them there in hybrid form. All of them there to tempt people away from the gaggle of Chinese cars with something a bit different. Now, the 408 is a nice looking car, but again, you do look at the 408 and look at some of the Chinese and think, this doesn't feel as well finished. The 3008, also nice car to sit in with that lovely Peugeot cockpit. They at least tried to make something different. That steering wheel is a little bit low, of course, and yeah, it's a bit, not to everyone's taste, but to mine at least. This is going to sound odd, but of the new cars, the one I'd go home in tonight would have been the Expert E, the Peugeot van. That car has a very lovely, usable cargo space for lots of things you can put in it. But to me, it was one of the nicest places to sit in. Yes, I'm going to rant about trashy Euros again, but the lovely tactile surface of hard plastic, particularly hard French plastic, and that lovely seating position and lovely French seats and pedals that fit and everything that suits me to the ground in terms of driving position works so well. Porsche were there with their 911 with a big queue to get into it, and a few Cayennes and Macans. Again, these cars started to look kind of second rate in front of the Chinese. The finish and the fit and finish on them is not brilliant for the amount of money you pay for it. And that's something, I'm saying these things a lot because think of what this motor show is doing. Think of what type of person you're trying to sell this car to. You're trying to sell the thing fundamentally on face value. That's something the Euros really have to up their game with in terms of face value. Smart were also there with their new Hash 1 and Hash 3, made in China with Mercedes components and Mercedes design. These are the sort of cars that would attract a lot of people looking at budget-end Mercedes like A's and B's, which are now no longer available. McLaren Artura was there, as well as a few Brabuses at Zagamis. But again, Western cars were typically thin on the ground. Geely had multiple brands here, including their new van brand. Horizon, the new Geely van brand. Their cars also look pretty cool as well. Getting more interest into them, GWM were also there with their Havels and their Tank, already a common sight on Australian roads, and I just think that sight's going to get even more common as time progresses. And of course we have all the historics and the nostalgia cars, which are all in the various stands of mostly looking at paint protection films which were around. Mostly paint protection companies were there, which I completely get because people love their cars a lot that are going to be going there and they want to protect their paint as much as possible, which I get as well. So, key takeaway points. The Chinese are out in force. Their cars look good, feel good, and look well screwed together, at least on the surface. The Euros need to catch up on this. They need to make cars with glossy paint that has no orange peel, that looks like it's consistent throughout. And of course, if I had to drive off in one of them tonight. It's going to sound very odd, but I'll take that Peugeot van. I just loved being in it for some odd reason. Maybe it's because I'm still old school. I still love my Euro trash. But you'll never change me on that. Bottom line is, if you were going to that show as a mainstream consumer, looking at your next purchase, you're going to be walking out of there thinking, I must consider these Chinese cars, because these things look like they are worth the effort. Anyways, I left the motor show with my typical bag of brochures of very many cars, as I usually did all those years ago. As I retreated to my lovely plastic 18-year-old Renault Megane, I remember what that car was like when I was at the motor show and I was 12 years old sitting in it, like so many other 12-year-olds. Maybe it'll bring back more interest in cars, I don't know. Anyway, it was a good thing this year and I hope they do it again. Thank you for watching, and if you like what we do, remember to like and subscribe.